Today I'm going to show you my process for washing and saving yeast. Some folks may do this to save a few bucks. We're doing it to preserve some wild yeast. In order to wash yeast, you'll need a few simple items. We got leftover yeast and dregs from one of our log beer fermentations. So we're just going to go ahead and harvest the yeast. I first started doing it years ago from a Chop and Brew video, Chip and Dono washing yeast, and that's kind of the process I've used. I'm just going to go ahead and pour that little bit of beer that's left over from the first bucket into the second. What I always like to do is add about a half gallon of distilled water just to get this slurry all mixed together. Since we did cold crash this, we have a pretty thick layer. So I'm just gonna give it the old swirl, and you can see it kind of breaks up that huge cake that was at the bottom. And basically we're just trying to get everything in the suspension. We're in a good place right now. We got our yeast with our water, everything's kind of mixed together. From here, you're gonna need a couple things. I always like to transfer it to a carboy. Then you can tilt it on its side and you can actually see the separation, and it just makes it easier to pour. That'll make more sense once we get into it. And then you can use a apple juice jar. We have a couple 2.5, 3 gallon carboys. This is what we're gonna use since we don't have a gallon jug laying around. Next up, we're gonna transfer the water yeast solution from our fermentation bucket. As you can see, I've thoroughly sanitized our funnel with Star San. A little bit of sediment and yeast still in here. So I'm gonna add a little more distilled water. Give it another quick rinse, and now let's add that in as well. Add that all over the table as well. So we got the yeast, water, and any other kind of trube and sediment in our carboy. Next step is to simply turn it on its side. So we're gonna let this just settle and hang out for 30 minutes. All right, it's been 35 minutes. I was on the phone with a customer, so you can see this really nice separation. The main reason we put it sideways like this is we just want to pour that nice milky layer and leave the darker sediment behind. And like I said, we're just gonna try and get that top layer. And then we're gonna let this sit for 15, 20 minutes. All right, so we got our pint jars and a bucket of sanitizer. You just wanna make sure your jars are clean and sanitized. We didn't get a whole lot of settling in the second settlement, which is fine. So we're just gonna go ahead, take this and pour them into the jars. All right, now I'm just gonna put the lids on. And then I always followed Dono's advice. He said just make it a little bit snug. Basically don't want anything getting in, but you want it to be able to burp if it needs to. Not cranking down on them. And we're gonna put these in the fridge. It's Friday today. On Monday, we'll come back to the office and we should see a nice layer of yeast at the bottom. And if we don't, we screwed up. So as you can see, all the yeast is settled in a nice layer at the bottom. In order to brew a beer with the washed and harvested yeast, you'll need to create a yeast starter. Check out our how to create a yeast starter video below. Keep an eye on the channel. We'll be brewing a beer with this harvested yeast very soon. You'll see us make a yeast starter, pitch it, and drink it. If you're not subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button and we'll catch you on the next one. Here's a quick overview of washing and saving yeast. Pretty simple process, and that's the process that I use to wash yeast. Cheers.